Welcome back to Gaelic Games Fan TV. Cork have beaten Roscommon. They have knocked Roscommon out of the All-Ireland Championship. Knockout football is here, and knockout football has delivered. And what an extraordinary result. What an extraordinary finish in the end to a game. If you're a Cork fan, you're absolutely jubilant. You're over the moon. If you're a Roscommon fan, you want the world to swallow you up right now. You want that ground to swallow you up because, goodness me, I cannot believe that Roscommon are gone. This is a team that went toe-to-toe with all of the big boys throughout the entirety of the year in Division 1, finished third in Division 1, beat the likes of Armagh, beat the likes of Galway, beat Mayo in the Championship. They've beaten all the big boys. They nearly beat Dublin in the Championship as well. Let's not forget that. They drew with them in Croke Park. And here they are. They've lost back-to-back games against two mid-table Division 2 sides on the basis of the league. Now, I think I think evidence shows that Cork are much better than a mid-table Division 2 side, don't get me wrong, but that's where they finished in Division 2, and Roscommon have lost, and they had this game within their reach. There were 7 points to 3 early up in the first half, conceded 3 points right towards the end of the first half, which put them on the back foot going into the second, and Cork just ever so slightly grew in confidence, and Roscommon just started making more mistakes. They were very comfortable in possession in the first half. They were cruising in possession. They were waiting for their right openings. And just a couple of mistakes allowed Cork back into it. But what's mad is that Roscommon only hit, I think, 2 wides in this game. So, shooting-wise, they actually done quite well. Shooting-wise, they were fantastic. They were creating opportunities. They were creating chances. But it's just those mistakes and those fine margins. A couple of kickouts going astray. They were hugely struggling with the kick out, and in the end, absolutely massive what's happened there. Absolutely incredible. Roscommon, it's just yearly, isn't it? It must feel like a yearly implosion for Roscommon. It's the exact same familiarity as to what happened with the Clare game, and I think Roscommon played a lot better today than they did against Clare last year. But Cork just nicked it. They just absolutely nicked it. They sat in, they had a game plan, they allowed Roscommon to have most of the possession, they waited to tackle, and when they got the ball, they ran it through the middle as quick as a racehorse, and they just waited for those opportunities on the counter-attack and took them, and fair play to Cork. For Roscommon, yeah, it's mental, because it looked like they were 5 points down, they dragged it back, they dragged it back level, and you felt like, right, this game's only going to go one way here. It didn't feel like Roscommon panicked. They found a way to get themselves back into the game. They done well to get back into the game. But just in that final couple of minutes, they let it slip. And even when Enda Smith getting sent off as well, which is pure frustration. I don't think that would have... I think the ref might have thrown the ball up there, as a matter of fact, if that didn't happen. And maybe Roscommon would have been able to work a chance. But yeah, absolutely mental stuff that Roscommon are out of the Championship. But fair play to Cork. I mean, to think only 2 of their starting forwards scored in Stephen Sherlock and Brian O'Driscoll. And Brian O'Driscoll was nearly playing as a centre-back at the best of times. He spent more time in and around his own full-back area and half-back area than he did probably, in that forward position. But Cork were brilliant around the midfield. They were very, very strong. They certainly won the kick-out battle. That was something that Roscommon were hugely struggling with, was kick-outs. And Cork turned them over time and time again from kick-outs. And that was a big, big struggle. Matty Taylor, brilliant at wing-back. Luke Fahey, brilliant as well. Tommy Walsh made a big impact at cornerback. Rory Maguire was my man of the match personally. He was sensational, 2 points. And obviously some of the substitutes that they brought on as well, like Conor Corbett, gets himself that goal, key goal that came at such a big moment. Chris Oak-Jones with 2 points. And Cork just nicked it. They just had that little bit more firepower going down the home stretch. And, for Roscommon, they just gave the ball away too many times, I felt, towards the end of the game. They lost the will of themselves ever so slightly. And, psychologically, this is a big blow for Roscommon, because that's 2 years in a row now where they've lost at the preliminary quarter-final stage. And to think they were a top 8 team country throughout the entirety of the year, and they've lost to Cork and Kildare back to back. That's sickening stuff. To think Roscommon, had the opportunity, had they beaten Kildare by a certain margin, to possibly be in an All-Ireland quarter-final, and here we are. Here we are at Roscommon, and I know there's plenty of Roscommon fans who do tune into this channel every now and again, so I'd be very curious to know your opinions on the game. Like, where do you think it went wrong? Because, like, shooting-wise, you were very strong. Like, there wasn't too many wides. I thought Enda Smith, even though he got sent off, was phenomenal. I thought he was Roscommon's best player. He had a very, very good game. But I think the big moments, Roscommon had 2 big goal chances. Enda Smith's goal chance in the first half where he drove it straight down the middle. And then in the second half, I think it was German Murtha. I felt like they could have worked that goal chance a bit better. Like the Roscommon player could have maybe moved closer in towards the goal. And then German Murtha could have peeled off at the back post and hand passed it over. And, that sort of classic goal that we've often seen from plenty of teams down the country, but Roscommon didn't do that, and they paid the price. They paid the price. A lot of turnovers from Cork was definitely the difference. And even the substitute at half time, like Donny Smith coming off and Conor Cox coming on. I don't know if that was an injury, but I don't think that worked at all. To be honest with you, I think Roscommon lost more balance defensively as a result, and we've seen even Conor Cox give away 1 or 2 frees. Wow, crazy stuff. And like, you just look at it, German Murtha 6 points, Kieran Murtha 5 points. They scored 16 points, which, and a lot of times would be enough to win you a game of Gaelic football. But Cork just stuck in it, and that's the thing with this Cork side. They don't bow down. They don't lie down. And as I said before, I said in my preview show during the week, and I said after the Mayo game as well. Like, I think Cork are serious dark horses, in my opinion. Like, they won't be able to draw Kerry in the quarterfinals, and I don't think they'll fear anyone, including Dublin. They nearly beat Dublin earlier in the year in the league. I don't think they'll fear Derry. I don't think they'll fear Armagh. Would Cork be favourites in those games? Probably not. But I think it suits Cork, and I think defensively, in terms of organisation, they're so well set up. And like in the first half, they did look a little bit leggy, and they kicked 3 points after about 30. They basically scored the same amount of points in the last 3 minutes of the first half than they did in the entirety of the first half. And I felt like Cork were rushing chances a little bit and sort of wasting energy and wasting opportunities. But in fairness to them, they're doing very, very well. They're doing very, very well to drag themselves back into the game. I was worried about Roscommon going into the second half because they were just a point up, having done so much work. And you just felt like with the crowd obviously massively behind Cork, the more the game stayed close, the more you feel like Roscommon, could possibly implode. And it did feel like that. There was one mad moment in the game where back-to-back kickouts just went completely wrong, and Cork didn't take advantage of it. Obviously, Stephen Sherlock could have kicked it off the grounds to put it in the back of the net on his left foot. I was surprised he didn't, but obviously he puts the ball over the bar. Incredibly, it wasn't given, but in the end, it didn't make a difference, thankfully enough, because that would have been a little bit controversial, in fairness. But yeah, crazy stuff. And knockout football is back, and it's great to see. And Cork are into the All-Ireland quarterfinals for 2 years in a row now. So, like, I think we do need to start looking at Cork a lot more seriously than maybe we did previously. John says, as a Cork man, I'm unbelievably proud and can't believe it. All I want for us to beat Kerry in Croke Park. That's as good as an All-Ireland for me. Yeah, and look, I mean, that could only happen in a semi-final or final, like, because of repeat parents. You won't be able to get them in a quarter-final. But, look, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. I mean, Cork are going to be a tough team to beat, in my opinion. And, like, you think of how Roscommon set up against Dublin and Croke Park and really frustrated the living daylights out of them. Like, if Cork got Dublin, they do the same, and they do it better. So, like, I think Cork, stylistically, I actually think they could give Dublin a lot of problems in a quarter-final if they got them, but we'll see. After tomorrow, only one Connacht side will be in the All-Ireland series, says Denise. And yeah, like, maybe it goes to show that the league, like, we've all maybe read too much into the league, and to think of 2 of the top 3 of the league will be knocked out, by tomorrow evening. So crazy. Connor says Rossi's play the worst brand of football in the country. Cork were full value for that. I don't think they play a bad brand of football. Like, they They were very patient on the ball. They wait for the right openings. They're very well set up, and attacking wise, they were quite good. But I don't think they maybe created enough. You think about it, in the first half, they had 9 scoring chances, 2 wides in the first half. They actually hit no wides in the second half, which is kind of crazy. But 9 scoring chances in the first half, like in a full 35 minutes of football, that's not really enough. And I think from a Roscommon, well, I suppose 10 scoring chances if you count that goal opportunity, like that's not really enough, is it? You know what I mean? Like you need to be creating a bit more than that. And considering Cork looked a little bit on the ropes in the first half, like if that Enda Smith goal goes in, I think Roscommon are 6 points up at that stage. And it would have been a very tough way back from Cork from there. So, yeah, like from a Roscommon point of view, just a bit of an implosion. And, yeah, same old, same old. And from a Roscommon fan point of view, you'll be absolutely sick. I doubt, Roscommon fans will want to watch any Gaelic football now for quite a while, because we all built them up as a team that could possibly get to a semi-final, and here we are, beaten in the preliminary quarter-final once again. Tough one to take. Patrick says Cork will face Dublin and lose. Connor says, I don't think Roscommon could win an All-Ireland playing the way they do, 6 minutes of possession again with no effort to go forward. Yeah, that was the thing in the first half, and I remember even saying that after the Dublin game. Like there was an element of them in the Dublin game. I thought Dublin were there for the taking that day, and Roscommon, like all the focus was on how Roscommon nearly beat Dublin, but Roscommon only scored 1-9 that day, and I actually don't think Roscommon were at their best that day. I think it was more so that Dublin were just dreadful. Like it was one of the worst Dublin performances I'd ever seen. So, there was a lot of emphasis put on that, but Roscommon did at times in that game keep the ball for large parts without really doing anything. And it was the same again in this game. They just didn't take enough risks, and ultimately, to come back to bite them. And the more the game went on, the more they started to lose possession. And I think Cork's physicality is just so strong in and around their full back line with Rory Maguire, with Brian O'Driscoll. Like they're a very strong physical team, Cork, and physically they're going to be a tough nut to crack. They're going to be a tough nut to crack. But yeah, first losing to Kildare and now Cork, says Patrick. Yeah, like for Roscommon fans, like to just think about it, they went toe to toe with every Division 1 side in the country. Could have very well gotten to the league final, beat Mayo in the championship, lost to Galway, no shame in that. Drew with Dublin, and here we are. Like they've lost to Kildare and Cork, and look, as I said, Cork are very good. But at the same time, like how do you be so good for so long and then lose to two sides who finish mid-table in Division 2? It is mental, isn't it? And I think, to be honest with you, the Cork defeat, because I think Cork are a good side, but I think it's more that Kildare defeat. They're more than capable of beating Kildare. And I think if they had a crack of Kildare again, I think they would have enough to beat them. I think they just took their eye off the ball in that game. And here we go. They've paid the price in the end, and they've gone out of championship. So, yeah, look, we'll end this here. Leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and we'll be going live after the Dublin Clare game in the All Ireland Hurling Championship, and we'll be going live after the Kildare Monaghan game as well. So, what a crazy day of championship action already, and hopefully we have a few more surprises in store. So, I'll speak to you all soon.